Hello, everybody. This is Reed Coverdale again, and this is the Naturalist Capitalist. And today I've got David Fite with me. How you doing, Dave?
Not too bad. How's it going?
It's going well.
Good
Um,
to hear.
would you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself, like what you do? I know you got a show and everything. You're a politician. Just give us a little info.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. My name is David Fite. I am a politician from New York City. I'm a libertarian. I ran for city council last year, and then I worked on Tulsi Gabbard's campaign with you. And now I'm working on a couple of congressional campaigns and getting ready for 2021 in New York. And then, as you mentioned, I do also have a YouTube channel. It's called Fight for Liberty, Fite, like my name. And you can check that out. There's also like Instagram and Twitter attached to that as well.
All right, cool. You want to tell us a little bit about your political beliefs? You're a libertarian, but what does that actually mean? I think a lot of people have a skewed view of what libertarians are. They kind of think of us as Republicans who smoke weed or Democrats who like guns.
Yeah.
So you want to kind of outline your philosophy and how it could apply to what's going on today, like why the two parties are so terrible for what's going on.
Oh, for sure. I could talk about that all day. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like, in all honesty, most libertarians started out as either a Republican that smokes weed or a Democrat that liked guns, and then they started to kind of become disenfranchised with their party because there was one or two issues that they disagreed with, and then they found a different party that believed all of the things that they agreed with, and they started learning about more stuff. Um, and other ways that the two-party system has tried to screw you over, and the history of the just authoritarians just continuing throughout presidential administration through the next one. So yeah, I started out. I was raised fairly conservative, pretty Republican, but my parents are both registered independents.
Yeah,
So I didn't have that like bleeding heart Republican upbringing that a lot of my friends did,
right.
but I was still pretty conservative. Second Amendment, taxes are bad. Um, I was raised Christian, so a lot of the more moralistic uh, policy issues I sided with the Republican Party on too. So, gay marriage and abortion, I thought, oh, well, those are sins. So, yeah, we should be discouraging them, and we're a Christian nation and all this other bullshit. And that's kind of how I was raised.
Right.
Um, so I think the moment I turned to libertarianism was kind of when I broke away from that second part of it and realize that even though I might think that those things are wrong or might have thought that those things were wrong, that it's not my job or anybody in the government's job to tell you you can't do those. And
Right.
then, same with drugs. At the time, I had never smoked weed. I'd been drunk like two or three times at the time.
Yeah.
um, but just kind of an idea of like, go live your life, just do what you want to do. And then I started living that kind of a lifestyle and meeting other people that lived that way, and I had to meet more libertarians and more people that just kind of had a free mindset on things, even outside of the party. Um, and I realized, yeah, this is definitely the better way to go. And then to your point of the two-party system, as soon as you step out of it for a second, you realize exactly how bad of a um, like he said, she said kind of bullshit team mentality that nobody gets anything done. Everybody's just out in it for themselves and for a team win, and people refusing to co-sponsor bills just because a Republican sponsored it. It's just complete bullshit. Um,
Right.
I mean, to think of something that I talked about in Monday's show was the States Act. It removes marijuana from the uh, conflicted trade or the what am I talking about? Controlled substance list.
Yeah.
and Amash has a bill and some Republican has a bill. They're identical, but a whole bunch of people supported the Republicans' bill, not a damn co-sponsor on Amash's bill because he had just turned libertarian when he put it out there.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
It's just it's complete bullshit.
Yeah. So, um, I feel like libertarians are the only ones who have real solutions. I mean, I feel like Republicans and Democrats, they just have a partisan circus, and most of their solutions are just they're the same, really. Like they want to think that they're so different, but it's
Mm.
just different forms of big government and forced compliance. Um, I think that libertarians really have a chance to show themselves as problem solvers, but sometimes they almost want people to look at them as a joke. Like, I mean, it's almost like they, if we want to be taken seriously, we have
Free
to
the
take
nipples.
ourselves seriously first. You know what I mean?
uh, tell me you dodged that entire storyline of Spike Cohen and his shirt wearing, because that was
Okay.
ridiculous. But
That
yeah, I
was,
mean exactly to your point. Like we do think we just continuously shoot ourselves in the foot.
yeah. No, yeah. So what do you think about Joe Jorgensen? You think I think she's pretty good. I mean, I feel like that's a good direction forward at this point.
So I feel like I finally understand what a like reluctant Joe Biden supporter must feel like right now.
Uh-huh.
Um, with just I didn't like her in the primary. I kind of outspokenly was against her a couple of times. I have some solid critiques. She is good on most things. She's kind of milk toast. And I just like when Amash was in it and an option, there was no way I didn't really like her that much. But now that she won, she's my candidate. I kind of have to support her. Um, and it's kind of like vote blue no matter who mentality, and it hurts.
Right.
But but I mean, yeah, she's good on everything. I just don't think she's gonna do for the party what somebody maybe a little bit younger or more in tune with what's going on today could do. I think she's stuck
Right.
in 1996
Mm-hmm.
in her last presidential race and just kind of trying to recreate that, and I don't think that's going to work this time around.
Oh, okay. I want to talk a
But I
little bit
do
about
like her,
Donald.
so
Okay,
definitely
yeah.
I don't want to talk
Yeah,
too much
no,
shit.
gotcha. I want to talk a little bit about Donald Trump and a lot of leftists have called him a fascist before, but they don't really know the definition of fascism. They were just calling him a fascist because he said racist things or whatever. But a lot of people don't realize his economic policies have pushed us closer to fascism, legitimately, like a corporate control of the economy. And lately, with his police state style rhetoric, um, and he's talking about having the Supreme Court look at flag burning as a federal offense. So these are like actual fascist policies that he's pushing now, but they've cried wolf so much that I don't think a lot of people even notice or care. Uh, but I think you and I certainly do. So you want to talk about that at all? Like what you think about Donald Trump and how dangerous he is? And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think the word fascist, like you said, has had this weird meaning that somehow means racist for a little while. And that has nothing to do with it. Fascism, like you said, it's about the way that you're controlling the government. And what he's doing right now is more fascist than we've seen from any president, really, other since like Abraham Lincoln. Um,
yeah,
yeah, a police state to shut down protesting that has been mostly peaceful um, is exactly, and how quick he was too. It hasn't even been a week, and he's already like, oh, bring in the military.
yeah,
Um, if this was going on for like a month and a half, and like a couple of cities were on fire, and like shit was really hitting the fan, then I'm doubt about this decision. You know, if it was a really bad situation that the police were not able to handle it all, like some cities had been overthrown, like police stations taken over by rioters, like that kind of a situation, then maybe I might be able to see some justification. But, you know, it's been less than a week and he's instantly okay, let's just go in and shoot him. Let's bring in the military. That sounds like a
Yeah.
great plan. And yeah, that's fucking scary. I'm not happy with that at all.
Right.
I had friends that were protesting yesterday in New York City and over the weekend, and I've seen some videos of just some brutal shit going on,
Yeah.
and that's the police. So I'm very much worried about what it might look like if the military ends up getting involved. I
Right.
yeah, I don't want to see that at all.
Yeah. Do you think he's just hamming it up like he usually does? Do you think it's all bravado, or do you think like we should actually be taking him seriously and be a little more scared of him?
Um, I think that I think that the main thing about Trump, the reason that he's been somewhat harmless in a lot of the ways that everybody thought he was going to be bad, is because the people that can actually control Washington have shut down a lot of his more crazy things. Those
Yeah.
people that are shutting down some of his crazy shit are the same people that are still passing renewing of FISA and the Patriot Act, and those same people that are going to be completely okay with turning the U.S. into a police state.
Yeah.
So I'm worried about this because that deep state that's constantly against Trump, whatever, they're on his side with this fight, and they're not going to stop him. So he's just going to get his way. He's going to be able to throw a temper tantrum and start a war,
Yeah.
and they're not going to stop him.
Yeah. No, it's really concerning to think about. Um, Something you've done a lot on your show lately is you're doing the deep dive thing, checking out all the bills and all the crap that's thrown into them. And for the last 2 months, we've had nothing but pretty much all terrible bills come to Congress, and some of them have passed the House, some of them have passed the House and Senate and been signed into law. And there's a couple good things in a bill sometimes, but the vast majority of it is terrible. And I feel like some good congressmen and senators are voting for the bills because they think, well, I have to get this little bit of, this little bit of gold here for my constituents. I don't care about the rest of the bill. And something you've brought up recently is the One Subject at a Time Act and how that would solve this issue. Do you want to just dive into that? Tell us about that whole deal.
Yeah, so the One Subject at a Time Act was written by a former congresswoman, Mia Love. She represented Utah. Um, I actually got to meet some of her fans when we were there campaigning for Tulsi. That's how I found out about her. Um, and yeah, the basic idea of it is if you write a bill, it has to be about one thing, and it has to be clearly described in the title. And anything that doesn't fit those parameters is void. It just basically kills any kind of bill. So even if you just try to sneak something into like a budget bill, if it gets through, because the bill doesn't actually make it not be able to be turned into law, it just voids it. It's kind of weird. So Congress could go through the bravado of still passing these jarbled bills. They just technically would be voided.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it gives, what I think is cool is based on that, it gives not only members of Congress, but also every American the right to challenge a law in federal court based on the One Subject at a Time Act, saying that if you think that it has more than one subject in it, any of us can say, hey, this bill should be illegal, and
Right, right.
we have a case. So that's something that I really appreciated.
All right. No, that's cool. So I was at a protest yesterday in Denver, Colorado. I went with a
Fellas.
sign that said, um, It said end qualified immunity, end civil asset forfeiture, and end police brutality. Vote Libertarian. And so I walked around and I talked with like 100 different people while I was there, and everyone was protesting, but they didn't know what they were protesting. They knew what the problem was. They didn't know what the solution was. And so I said, you need to look at qualified immunity because that's the number one step to getting justice here, because they have protections that we don't. And it makes it almost impossible for someone to try to sue them in court, or get them get them arrested or anything, because you have to have extremely specific cases that have already been outlined and deemed unconstitutional. And so they were thankful for the information, but I got the gist that most of the speakers there, I think they were probably in support of Joe Biden. And then most of the protesters, a lot of them had signs that said vote on November 3rd, and I asked some of them, like, who are you voting for? And they said, oh, Joe Biden. It's like, okay, I mean, you remember all the police killings that happened under Obama? Like, why do you think something's going to change? But Justin Amash, the only libertarian in Congress, he's crafting a bill to end qualified immunity. And, I don't feel like anyone else is really talking about it that much. Bernie Sanders said something about it yesterday, which was cool. You want to talk about that at all, about qualified immunity, police brutality, and how the Libertarian Party is really the only one that's taking a principled stand?
Yeah, I definitely, living in New York City, I've gotten to witness a lot of police brutality firsthand,
Uh-huh.
and been a victim to it more than once. I've been in protests there that got very violent, and now there's more going on.
Right.
Qualified immunity is this really kind of messed up system where, in the exact same situation, if you or I did anything, we would go to jail, and a police would not, just because they have a badge, even though it's clearly illegal, it's clearly harmful, they have no right to do it, they can get away with it, is just bullshit. And that's why murders like these happen. I mean, some of the killings, the ones that they had some bullshit excuse of, like, oh, it was in the moment, but it was kind of in the moment, like the kid running through his grandma's backyard or something like that, getting shot. They were stupid and they still deserve to go to jail for murder, but that was
Right.
just in the moment. This guy was kneeling on George's neck for like 4.5 minutes until he passed out, like while he was getting taped. He did that because he knew he wouldn't get in trouble. He
Right.
knew, having already killed somebody in the line of duty before and getting away with it, he knew that he could just do this and most likely he would be fine. Nothing would come of it. And so there's no reason for him to do the right thing.
Right.
And this is never going to stop until we start prosecuting our police officers for murder when they do it.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I think this is kind of applicable to a lot of things that are going on now. People are angry at the police, and they're angry at corporations for getting bailed out, and they're angry at all of these systems. And I think from the research I've done that the solution is removing the federal government's protections from a lot of things. So really removing it from police officers, removing it from corporations and giving them all these bailouts. I think that a trap a lot of people are falling into right now is they're angry at the system, and so they want communism or they want socialism, like straight up. They're just like, screw this capitalism, small government stuff. And I think a lot of those people haven't done research, and if they did, they'd realize, wow, we really need to roll things back to fix these problems. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think you're definitely right. A lot of the groups that I've worked with and protested with and stuff like that, a lot of people there, they don't know the root cause of what they're against. Um, One thing I will say, that has been reassuring is, in New York City, there are quite a few groups that I feel like actually do understand that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
I did a protest last year with No New Jails, because in New York City last year they passed a bill to spend $13 billion building 4 new jails in New York City. And so we were protesting against that. But I really got to talk to these people, and a lot of them are also organizers with Black Lives Matter and Decrim NY, which is about sex work decriminalization. And they're really like a lot of these organizations are finally starting to become a little bit more legislatively based. And
Mm,
but mixed with the protesting, I think that that's what's important is you can't just be a policy wonk. You can't just, tweet about the bills. Like I can't even just what I'm doing, making videos. They're informative, they might be helpful, but it requires both at the same time. It requires
right.
civil disobedience, it requires outreach, it requires education all around. And so I think, the Libertarian Party does a good job at the education thing, at the policy stuff. I think we could really take some tips from some more leftist organizations on
Yes.
the organizing of protests and stuff like that, because I've been so depressed this week with how unorganized the libertarians have been with these
Yeah.
protests. It's like 5 or 6 people might show up kind of haphazardly, like, woo, I have my campaign shirt on by myself, like, yay, I'm a candidate, go
Yeah.
libertarians. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Libertarians are like they're pretty selfish when it comes to protesting. Like they tend to stockpile ammunition and say, okay, once the government is coming up my driveway, that's when I'll do something about it. And it's like that's too late when it's that point. Like you've got to organize and protest now. I was actually thinking yesterday, if there were, I'm sure there were some libertarians there, but I didn't really meet any of them. And I was thinking, imagine if there were hundreds of libertarians here with AR-15s protesting alongside these people, and it was peaceful. Think of how terrified the establishment would be of that. Like if you had a right and left wing protest joined together on common ground, protesting against the abusive state, that would scare the shit out of them. But I feel like they don't have to worry about it because they've been so successful at dividing us. The guys who were protesting a month ago at the Michigan Capitol, they should be protesting now too, because they're protesting against the same thing. It's against a
Mhm.
state that's abusing its power. I'd love to see them come together under the same cause and be like, you know what, this state has to go. It's
Yeah.
abusing our rights. So
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I've seen it a little bit. I know that I was watching something on Instagram a couple days ago where somebody that was at the Michigan Capitol was also in Minneapolis this week, and kind of like a hoorah, we're all in this together.
hmm
And I saw another thing about Philly. Um, there was a bunch of people like anti-protesters that kind of came out with like baseball bats, and then but the groups never actually like really met, and it ended up kind of like fizzling out into nothing, and everybody just kind of got along in the end. And it was kind
mm,
of a really weird situation, but kind of kind of a feel good news story of what could have been a very large like race riot, because it was pretty like black and white literally. um it just ended up being kind of a nothing, and
yeah,
protests happened, looting didn't happen, which was basically the point of the white people being out there, was to try to stop the looting, and everybody just kind of went home happy. And
yeah,
if more stuff like that happened, I think the country would be better off. And like you said, it would scare the shit out of the establishment in the state if we could come together and be like, all right, no, we need guns, and we need to end police brutality, and we need to end the war on drugs, and we need to end the wasteless wars in the Middle East, and we need to stop wasting tax dollars. Like, boom, everybody wins.
yeah, yeah. No, I totally agree. Um, yeah, no, I think Democrats really need to wake up to the fact that Joe Biden wrote the '94 crime bill, And the assault weapons ban was part of that. The police were allowed to stay militarized, but the citizens had to give up all of their high capacity magazines and everything. And I feel like the Democrats have been very successful in flipping a lot of issues on their head to say that they're supportive of something that in reality, the idea behind the bill that originally got rid of whatever they're talking about was for the exact opposite thing. And I feel like maybe some progressives are starting to wake up to that fact. Like I'm seeing a lot of progressives stop crying for gun control, and they're realizing the abuse that unions can have through police unions. They're seeing it in that light. So what I'm hoping is that out of all of this hysteria, is that afterward, whatever that means, that people will start to realize that some of the misconceptions they had were false. Like hopefully some conservatives will drop the thin blue line bullshit, and hopefully some liberals will drop the gun control shit. And I hope that that can lead to uniting under some sort of anti-authoritarian flag. I don't know if it's realistic, but I hope it is.
Yeah, I think the Tulsi campaign was a pretty good, like almost small version of that, which is why I
Right.
loved working on that campaign so much. We had
Yeah.
people like you, and then we had people like Dave Scrabble, who campaigned
Mhm.
for Bernie Sanders in 2016, and literally everybody in between. Unfortunately, she lost,
Yeah.
and I think that kind of is a little bit of a dooming description of how successful something like that might be. I think we would need to win over some form of mainstream something. There's no
Yeah.
way for that message of unity to break through because they control everything. They control the media, they control the movies, they control TV shows, they control every way that we think. They control what shows up on your Facebook newsfeed to piss you off the most. It's the whole world is rigged to tear us apart because
Mm.
conflict sells better. We like
Yeah.
it more. Um,
Right.
and so peace is a very hard thing to sell, unfortunately, and it shouldn't be, but it is. But I think, if we get, eventually this movement will grow. Eventually people will realize, Epstein didn't kill himself. Um, ABC knew about him and covered it up.
Yeah.
Both presidents, Clinton, Obama, and Trump knew him and were friends with him. It's a big club and you ain't in it. Like
Right.
eventually people are going to wake up. I'm just a little bit worried as to whether or not they're going to wake up before or after we're in concentration camps.
Yeah, that's key if it's before or after.
Yeah.
um, yeah, I guess we'll start ending out here, but I got a question. So I was a big Rand Paul supporter in the Republican Party in 2016, and he got crushed, went nowhere. And
Yeah.
then I was a big Tulsi Gabbard supporter this year. She got crushed, went nowhere. And then what I liked about both of them is like during the primary, they were both just eviscerating the establishment. And then to some extent, after they dropped out, they both have kind of like just backed off, and they still occasionally attack, but not nearly to the extent they did
Yeah.
before their primaries were lost.
Yeah.
Where I'm watching
Tulsi
Justin
even dropped
Amash.
the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm watching Justin Amash, and he is just like saying whatever is on his mind because he doesn't have a party controlling him at all. And that has gotten me to wonder. I agree more with the Libertarians than the Democrats or Republicans, but I just have never thought they could win. So I supported Rand because I was like, okay, this guy is a very good Republican. Then I thought the same about Tulsi. She was a very good Democrat, and it was the best chance.
But after seeing them both just get completely steamrolled and then kind of seeing them shut up after they lose, I'm feeling like the only place I have a voice is the Libertarian Party. So I'm thinking about not even messing with the two-party system next time. I'm thinking about just going right ahead with the Libertarians, and I can be more influential with what I disagree with them on than I ever would be with a Republican or Democrat. Do you think we should infiltrate the two-party system, or do you think we should really just push for the Libertarian Party?
I think that we should push for. I think that if you're a libertarian, I think that you should push the Libertarian Party.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people should feel more comfortable supporting the people that they want to support. So therefore, this is also a sales pitch for the Green Party.
Right.
If you care a lot about climate change and social justice and not about economic issues like we do, then look up the Green Party, look up Howie Hawkins.
Yeah.
There are other options, and I think that the whole country needs to understand that there are other options, and we need to tear this two-party system down from every direction. I don't want it to be a three-party system or a new
Right.
two-party system, because that's where I think a lot of libertarians want it to transfer. They want to tear down this two-party system and then it be like libertarians versus the socialists. And it still be a two-party system.
Right.
Which isn't any better. We'll still have that purity test. We'll still have that voting against people instead of for people. We need like a 5-party system with ranked choice voting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way that we get a really good representative republic. So yeah, I think trying to infiltrate the parties is kind of, I think, a waste of time right now. I think we need to work with the parties though, and try to convert people. And if Thomas Massey never becomes a libertarian, which would make me very sad, and he just stays a Republican forever, we need to make sure that we're working with him and that he is continuing what he's doing and spreading the message of liberty regardless of what party he is. But I think that when it comes to like presidential elections, yeah, go wholeheartedly for your party. I supported Tulsi because I didn't like anyone in the Libertarian primary.
Right.
If there was anybody there that I cared about, I probably wouldn't have been for Tulsi. But before Amash jumped in, there was nobody there that I wanted to work for.
Right. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just let you kind of close out with anything you want to say about your channel or anything you want to say in general about your message. If you want people to follow you on social media or whatever, just take a couple minutes and go for that.
All right. Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's at Fight for Liberty. Again, FITE, then the number 4. Or the website's fightforliberty.com. If you want to learn more about the One Subject at a Time Act, though, that's fightforliberty.com/one subject. There's a pledge on there that a couple of congressional candidates have signed, and we're working on getting more people to sign it to support that act and really change the party or change the government from within. So you can learn more about that there. And then, YouTube channel. We do a weekly show every Monday and Wednesday. So check those out.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.